What's up, guys? How's it going? Hope you're all doing well. I kind of wanted to just, I wanted to kind of make a video talking about my current thoughts on Beyblade X. Because I have some feelings about just kind of where it's at right now. Mainly in terms of just like the new releases and stuff, and Beyblade X Infinity, or the Expand Blade sort of gimmick, I guess. That's been like the new thing. I'm not a fan. That's kind of what this all boils down to. I'm not a fan of it, really. And I'm gonna get into why. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of strange. I haven't seen many people online share this sentiment. But my friend who's like super into Beyblade, and he's been collecting for a while now, and my girlfriend, we kind of share the same feelings on Beyblade X Infinity. And my issue with it is that it really just feels unnecessary. That's kind of my main issue with it. A lot of what we're getting really, it feels like they're trying to force Beyblade X to like innovate and move forward in a really strange way. Like it's just the progression they're trying to push it in with each of like the new infinite lines for BX, UX, and CX. It just feels completely unnatural to me. And it feels unnatural, and it feels unnecessary, and kind of dumb too. So BX Infinity, it baffles me, man. I don't understand it, because the bays are essentially the exact same. Like I don't even think I don't even think that they even needed to give it the Infinity label. Like if they released just a regular BX bay, and it had the center part was metal instead, and that was like the gimmick of that bay, then I feel like that would work just fine. But it doesn't feel like enough to do like a whole rebrand of BX for, you know? I think, and the thing is too, is that I don't even really know what BX Infinity's purpose is. Like, I think it's to make the bays heavier, and to give them more central weight distribution, because there's more metal in the center. But like, do we need to make a whole new line out of it? I don't know. It feels kind of unnecessary, you know? And not to mention, if the whole gimmick is making those bays heavier, which it seems like, you know, Drawn Strike was like, that was this whole gimmick, is that, wow, the new BX Infinity bays are like super heavy. Because I think that bay is what, like 41 grams or something, or the blade alone is 41 grams. And I think Ring Aether was what, 37, which is pretty solid. Not amazing, but it's like solid. So, and I think, are those the only two BX Infinity bays we have right now? I think so. I mean, there's more coming, but from those two, like, is the gimmick of BX Infinity just that they're heavier? Because my issue with that is that I feel like, does that not just, like, outclass every bay before it? You know, because what's the point of using Drawn Dagger when Drawn Strike exists? There's really no point. Like, there really is no point to Drawn Dagger anymore if Drawn Strike is literally the same bay but heavier. You know? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you could argue that, you know, Drawn Brave was essentially just another drawn sword. But they were, like, different enough to where they felt like different bays, you know. They definitely had the same, like, three-bladed design to them. But, you know, like, CX is a completely different system. Like, you've got the assist blade as well, which you can change out. It's on 660 and Vortex, too. Like, it's similar to Drawn Sword from the shape, but it's not the same. But Drawn Strike and Drawn Dagger are essentially the exact same shape. They're both on four-sided ratchets. Drawn Strike is on a shorter four-sided ratchet, and Free Fly, which you could probably argue is worse than Rush, but like, other than that, they're pretty similar. And if we're looking at just the blade alone, then 100% Strike is just better. Like, there's no reason to use Dagger. And I'm speaking from a more casual perspective, but I guess also for competitive play, because it feels like that's what BX Infinity is really, you know, kind of aimed at. Like, it feels like BX Infinity is like the competitive line, you know, which I don't think there should be, you know. I feel like it should be pretty, you know, split down the middle of, like, you know, casual players and competitive players, because not everyone goes to tournaments. Like, I've never been to a single Beyblade tournament in my life. And it's not even necessarily because I don't want to. It's also because there's none near me. So, like, I'm a very casual Beyblade X player. You know, I like testing combos and stuff. And, you know, seeing what works and what doesn't. But, you know, I collect the bays because I like having them. Like, I'm not buying a shark scale because I'm going to take it to a tournament or something just to win. And I'm not buying a wizard rod because, oh, wow, like, I need to bring it to this tournament or else I'm going to lose. Like, I just want to have the bays. And if they're good, that's great. You know, if they perform well, that's great. But my interest doesn't really lie in the competitive scene all that much. So I enjoy using bays like Drawn Dagger or, you know, Hell's Chain or like some of the more mid-tier bays. And even experimenting with those is a lot of fun. Like, my girlfriend has made some great combos using a lot of mid-tier blades and stuff like Crimson Garuda or Phoenix Rudder. Guys, try Phoenix Rudder 760 Gear Point, specifically the black version, on the black 760 and the red Gear Point, and Crimson Garuda 070 Trans Kick. Those are both combos that she came up with, and they're really good, from my testing at least. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I think what annoys me is that up until this point, you know, obviously when it comes to BX alone, there were definitely bays that were better than others, for sure. Like, take Phoenix Wing, right? Phoenix Wing, Cobalt Dragoon, what else? Jeez, I'm trying to... think through. Um, those are the first two that come to mind, though. It's like Phoenix Wing. Uh, I don't remember. You know what I mean. There were bays that were better than others, but generally fairly balanced. Drawn Strike feels like we're heading in a more competitive focused direction for like the BX line in general. Just with them, because it's literally Drawn Dagger, which was a mid-tier bay, and just buffed like crazy. And the whole gimmicks from what it seems so far is that it's just heavier. And so it's like, are they just, trying to say like these bays are more competitive than those old BX bays, which I don't really like, because it just kind of outclasses a lot of previous bays. And I know some people say that about like how, some older bays are outclassed nowadays, like Phoenix Wing. I completely disagree. I think that's so stupid. I think it's just because Phoenix Wing is old doesn't mean it's like unusable all of a sudden. But that's a whole tangent. But yeah, I don't know. BX Infinity, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. At least Drawn Strike. And I think Drawn Strike looks really cool. That's one thing I'll give the Infinity line, is that like I think the bays look awesome. Like they look really cool for the most part. There's a couple ones that I'm not crazy about, but generally from what I've seen, like they do look really cool. So yeah. But with I guess we'll move on to UX Infinity now. Out of the three, this is the one I have the biggest issue with. Like, okay, buffing older bays is one thing, or like just making the bays way stronger than maybe they should be is one thing, but at least the customization is still there. Why would they remove ratchets for UX Infinity? It's literally baffling to me, because it makes no sense. It literally makes no sense. This is like, I would say, the dumbest thing in Beyblade X so far. Like, the whole UX Infinity system is bafflingly stupid. Like, and I can't believe it's real. Like, it's a real thing that you just can't use ratchets on them. Like, none of them. It's like if every bay used turbo. Like, it's insane to me, dude. Like, okay. And my issue with it is, it should, like, Beyblade X started out so simple, right? And for the most part, it's been fairly simple. 3 parts: blade, ratchet, and bit. Each of them are pretty much are like all 3 are like equally vital to how your bay performs, and you can change each one to really fine tune the perfect combo, right? And exactly what you want, right? And so removing the ratchet is like the only thing you can change now is the bit, which can only do so much. It's really the combination of all 3 that works together to create a good combo. Like, you can't just slap 3 quote unquote meta parts together and expect your bay to be good. Like, you have to think about what you're making too. And so it's like, why remove that customization? And I think the problem I have with it too is that it was so simple, but it was so effective. It worked so well that why would you want to get rid of that in any way? Why would you get rid of one of the core aspects of Beyblade X? It makes no sense to me. And I don't I don't know. I've heard like that it's done because uh now they can fit more gimmicks into the blade or something, which is just like completely untrue because we have UX bait. That was the whole point of UX in general. That was the unique line, that they have, unique gimmicks to them. That's what Silverwolf is for. That's what, Scorpio Spear is for. That they have those gimmicks built into the blade itself. But I can still adjust everything with the ratchet and the bit to really make the blade work well. So that argument doesn't really make any sense. Like, if they released Valor Bison, like Valor Bison's whole thing is that it has wheels on it, right? You could put the wheels, like, you can keep the wheels and give us ratchets. Why is that something we need to take away for, more gimmicks or something? What are the other ones? Cutter Shinobi, again, we saw it with Silverwolf. There's literally no reason to remove ratchets. And then what the dumbest one though is what is it, Rampart Aegis? Like, it's literally it's arguably probably going to be one of the worst bays ever released. And that one's, there's no excuse. There's literally no excuse with Rampart Aegis. There is no gimmick for that bay whatsoever. It's literally just, it's essentially Ghost Circle without a ratchet, and that's it. Like, I don't know. I think it's also like, oh, okay, you can't get ratchet bursted anymore. You can only get bit bursted. But why are we like changing the core aspects of the gameplay when the gameplay itself is already perfect as is? It's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, And I think it's like their way of shaking up the gameplay. It's like, oh, you're going against a UX Infinity Bay, but you're gonna have to, knock it out, or I guess bit burst it or outspin it. But the problem with that is that 90% of the time you're probably going to, because now that it's literally just the ratchet, now that it's just the blade and the bit, the weight for the ratchet isn't compensated. And I assume that's intentional, so that it's like, oh, you can't get ratchet bursted, but you don't have the weight for it either. So, but the thing is that, like, if you have weight, then it's harder to get knocked around. And so you're probably going to get knocked out anyways. Like, it's so baffling to me, man. But the main issue I have with it is just that, like, why would you take away one of the core things of Beyblade X? It's like with CX, it was great because, it was still, at the end of the day, it was 3 parts. The blade itself was 3 different parts that you could change, but by the time it was assembled, it was 3 different parts. It was the same with BX, UX, and CX, but each of them felt unique in their own way without, changing, like, everything about the core, structure of Beyblade X. And UX Infinity is just like, it's like the biggest facepalm, dude. It boggles my mind, because I have no idea what they were thinking with UX Infinity. Of the 3, that's the one that I have the most issue with. I guess on to CX Infinity. Like, CX Infinity just feels so unnecessary. It's like where UX feels like too little, CX feels like too much. How are we at both, polar opposites of each other, when before this, like not too long ago, it was perfect the way it was. Oh my god, dude. And like the part I was thinking of too is, since Metal Fight at least, it's always been a 3-part blade. It's always been a 3-part blade, from what I remember at least. Like Metal Fight was, you had the metal wheel, you had the energy ring, and the face bolt, right? Even in Shogun Steel, right? You had like, you know, you had like the plastic ring, you had the metal ring, and the face bolt. You could count some of the, obviously the 4D system was a different thing, but the difference between the 4D system and CX Infinity is that, at least with the 4D system, the changes and the reason for there being 4 pieces to the blade, it actually felt meaningful to the battle. Like if you took, Diablo Nemesis, for example, right? You could have the one mode where it's more of a defensive mode, right? Where it's the, like the, I don't know what to call it, the part that you could flip upside down. So if you had it like right side up, then it was more of a defensive mode, right? Which the tip accounted for, by the way. But you could flip it like upside down, and it would completely change it. Suddenly it was free spinning, and it would change the tip to go from aggressive to defensive mid battle, right? And then with like what is it, Cosmic Pegasus, you could change each of the rings in the blade to go from like more defensive to like barrage to attack, and like stuff like that. And even Flash Sagittario too, like you could have it be more of an oval shape or more of a a cross kind of shape, I guess, so it's a little bit maybe less aggressive. It felt like there were reasons, for why, like it felt innovative, but not changing it too much. And then if we look at Burst, for example, like obviously it started out 3 pieces, right? But as we went on, the blades became three separate pieces. Like even if you take like GT, for example, like you had your main layer, right? And then you had your weight that you could, change around, and then the center lock chip, 3 pieces, simple. And then even like DB too, DB and BU, it was like you had, again, the outer layer, you had the center chip, and then you had the weight. 3 pieces, pretty simple, but you could change it around so that it was in like upper or lower mode. And I just like, it feels like CX was basically perfect the way it was. Like, and we even saw from like, the free assist blade, for example, like you could do gimmicks with the assist blades. Like to me, the assist blades are the gimmick of CX, And so like, it's like, it's especially strange because, where CX felt like an addition to standard Beyblade X, CX Infinity feels like an addition to an addition, where that addition is like completely not necessary. It's kind of like if they had the 4D system from Metal Fight and then they had the 4D system 2. And it's like, okay, why, is this really necessary? And they added like a whole nother part. And so suddenly the blade was like 6 pieces or something. Like, it's just, it just feels unnecessary. Like, why do we, and you could argue that the Overblade is really like, it's kind of doing a similar thing to the 4D system. I completely disagree. I really don't, like, the Overblade does just about nothing. Like when you look at, like the only thing I could see someone choosing a certain Overblade over a different one is for like weight. Is this Overblade specifically like barely heavier than this other one, because most of the time they're probably not making very much contact, especially because they're on top, like they're sitting on the top of the blade. And it's just like they're really not going to make a big difference. The most I've seen for, I guess, like the overblades doing something or really being like a proper gimmick is for Unicorn Delta, where it picks different modes that it goes into, more defensive or more attack or kind of in the middle. If they're going to do anything with, the overblades, it should be something like that, where they actually feel like they're, doing something with the bay, right? But, I mean, I feel like some could argue for Bahamut as well, but not really. If, because Bahamut's whole gimmick is that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parts of that blade, of that entire bay, are supposed to line up for 1 point. But if the, overblade was just integrated into the metal blade, it would make no difference. It's essentially the same thing. So I don't know. It's like the overblade feels like if the overblade was like metal, or each bay had like a specifically molded gimmick in the metal and everything that would interact with the overblade or the assist blade or something in a very specific way that could only be like, it's kind of hard to describe, but if it was more like the 4D system, then I could maybe understand it. But for right now, it just feels like way too much. Like it feels like unnecessary, and not to mention CX only came out like a year ago. Like CX is not that old. It came out like last year or sometime. And I feel like we haven't even really seen all that it's capable of, and we're already doing, CX Infinity, and it feels completely unnecessary. So yeah, I think that's pretty much how I feel about Beyblade Infinity, Beyblade X Infinity. I don't know. I'm not checked out of Beyblade, so I should, I do want to upload more videos, but I just, when I look at some of the new releases and I look at Beyblade X Infinity, and I see that this is kind of the direction that Beyblade X is heading in for at least the foreseeable future. I don't know if the Infinity line is just like a thing they're doing for a little bit, and then they're gonna, go back to the original kind of stuff. Like I don't know, because it wouldn't really make sense for them to go back, especially because they put a lot of emphasis on this being like the next evolution of Beyblade X. So for them to backpedal would, I don't know. It feels like they wouldn't do that. But yeah, I mean, again, what I'll say is that I like how the bays look. I don't like the Infinity system. Like for Glory Valkyrie, for example, I think Glory Valkyrie looks awesome. I think it's one of the best looking X-Bays that's been released. But it sucks that it's UX Infinity. Like that, my testing for it and everything is limited because I can't use a ratchet on it, because that's the gimmick. It's just baffling to me, I don't know. I don't understand it at all. But yeah, and like you know, even Bahamut looks awesome. I love how Bahamut looks. I like Ragnarage. I like how, you know, Night Fortress looks. Unicorn Delta, I'm not a big fan of. Um, Even if I think it has probably the best use of the Overblade so far. Brachio Whip, I think, looks pretty boring. And yeah, I don't know. Drawn Strike looks cool. Drawn Strike is cool. I wish I could get it. It's too bad that, you know, on top of on top of my issues with BX or you know, Beyblade X Infinity, there's also like a huge scalping issue right now. And so even these bays that I think look pretty cool, I can't even really get because some are being sold out before they've even been released. Like that's what the whole issue with Glory Valkyrie is. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know if you know, there's other people kind of feeling this way or this kind of uncertainty about the current Beyblade X landscape. But yeah, it's I'm not a fan. I'm really not a fan. I feel like what we had was pretty great and pretty perfect with like, you know, certain bays innovating and kind of pushing it forward. And this feels like they're kind of throwing everything out of whack to me. You know, like this isn't the proper way to innovate on Beyblade X. It feels sloppy and it feels very, very forced and very sudden. So yeah. But that's those are my thoughts. Leave it in the comments if you agree or you disagree, you know. I'd love to know why. But yeah, those are just my thoughts. So, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you listening. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.